Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
President Buhari celebrates last Salah in Aso Rock Villa as he thanked Nigerians for tolerating him for 8 years. INEC denies knowing whereabouts of suspended resident electoral commissioner of Adamawa State. Imo Police Command launched manhunt for killers of 5 operatives and couple. On the foreign scene, Oliver Dowden named UK's new Deputy Prime Minister following Rahab's resignation. Good evening. This is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. President Muhammadu Buhari has said he cannot wait to head to his hometown in Daura, Katsina State after he hands over on May 29th. Buhari spoke today at his 9th and final Salah celebration at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The president said he is lucky to have led Nigeria in various capacities and also thanked the residents of Abuja for tolerating him in the last 7.5 years. On Wednesday, the president returned to Abuja after an 8th-day official visit to Saudi Arabia. In the meantime, the Sultan of Sokoto and President General of the Nigeria Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, Mohammed Said Abubakar, today called on Muslims across Nigeria to pray for the peace, unity, and progress of Nigeria. He spoke at his palace shortly after the 2-unit prayers to mark the Eid al-Fitr at the Sokoto State Central Eid Ground, when thousands of Muslims, led by the state deputy governor, paid him a Salah homage. The Sultan appealed to Muslims in the country to live in peace with all Nigerians, irrespective of tribe, religion, or political affiliation. He admonished Muslim faithfuls to imbibe the teaching and all they had learned during the Ramadan in their daily activities so as to live as true Muslims beyond the period of Ramadan. Staying with Salah celebrations, as Muslims around the world mark the Eid al-Fitr, buyers and sellers have expressed frustration at low patronage and inability to buy their preferred items to celebrate the occasion. At Popular Market in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, low turnout of customers were observed as sellers counted their losses. Emmanuel Ujuadugele visited some markets and now reports.
During festive periods, there is always a surge in economic activities as many people try to buy what they need to celebrate special occasions like the Eid al-Fitr. At the Temidire Ram Market in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, Muslims like Ismail Ajiboye came to buy rams but acknowledged an attendant hike in price.
When there is a festival like this, that is Eid al-Fitr, we used to come here to buy like goat for the celebration. And as usual, when you are talking of price, compared to the non-festive period, the price used to go a little bit more higher than the normal period. Like what we used to buy at a normal period for like 25,000 before. Like this period now, it used to go up like 35, 40.
But according to Secretary of the Ram Market, Abdulhakeem Adidokun, this change in price, however, has not stopped adherents of the Islamic religion from purchasing the animals.
Àti àná tí wọ́n ti ṣe announcement yẹn torí àwa ti rí changes ní nǹkan bíi 4 o'clock tàti rí pé nǹkan ti ń change so àtàná yẹn wọ́n dẹ̀ ti ń patronize wa títí di àárọ̀ yìí.
The story is different at the Igbono market in Osogbo, where sellers of staple food like Segun Adeyemi complained about the low turnout of buyers.
Àwọn yóò ráyè wá rajà ọjọ́ lọ bí ti tẹ́lẹ̀ unis tó bá yẹ pé ìgbọ̀dún èrò máa pọ̀ tó yẹ pé olúkálukú gan máa tó gbá ìgboro dá kò dàbí pé èèyàn ń pa bóyá bíi ìjọ́ mi 150 ìyẹn ò pa tó báyìí apá jù báyìí ìjọ́ mi 40 ìjọ́ mi 50 ọjọ́ dẹ̀ lọ bí ti tẹ́lẹ̀ mọ́.
Butchers and meat sellers are not left out. One of them, Olalekan Afuye, says the poor showing by customers will result in low profit.
No car city bank jẹ́ kò sẹ́ni tí ó wù kó jẹun o ṣùgbọ́n no car city bank jẹ́ bọ̀ adúpẹ́ fọlọ́run ìyàtọ̀ wà nítorí àmọ́ láwọn tí ó wà á pín lájì tí ó wà á pín dà mẹ́rin rẹ̀ràn 20 rẹ̀ràn 40 bọ̀ nísìn ẹ̀ràn 3,000 5,000 náírà.
A buyer at the Igbono market, Ms. Rosalind Tejumola, lends credence to the position of the traders.
Everything is cost and there is no even money. So even the pepper, at least something you can buy at 50 naira before, it's like 150 now. So everything is very cost.
So unlike previous years, this year's Eid al-Fitr seems to be very different. Here at the Igbono market in Oshogbo, the Osun State capital, the stalls are almost empty because there are no customers. The traders say prices of goods and commodities, even food items, have risen, and this could be the reason why many persons have chosen to stay away from the markets today, because they simply do not have the purchasing power to get what they need to celebrate the occasion. They hope that the government will do everything possible to change their economic lives and create a better living condition for them, so that next year's celebration or other celebrations could be better than this year's. Emmanuel Ujadugele, Western Spring Television News.
Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has urged adherents of Islamic faith not to discard the teachings of Ramadan. Adeleke made this statement when he joined Muslim faithfuls across the state to observe the Eid prayer marking the end of Ramadan fast at the Eid praying ground, Okebale Oshogbo, the Osun State capital. Olayinka Ali was at the Eid praying ground and now reports.
Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke has joined Muslim faithful across the states to observe the Eid prayers for the Eid al-Fitr celebration at the Eid praying ground Okebale Oshogbo today. This marks the end of the 30-day fasting according to Muslim injunction. The governor enjoined the Muslims to continue to live with love, sacrifice and piety as they did throughout the period of fasting. Adeleke said the act of love, sacrifice and sharing amongst the Islamic brethren must not end with the month, urging them to extend those virtues beyond the holy month. He equally admonished them to be prayerful and abstain from sin, just as they have during Ramadan.
Well, after this Ramadan, they should know, because we are all human beings. It's only God that is 100%. We are not 100%, but they should try and abide from the fasting of that 30 days. A lot of people stay away from a lot of things. They should try to abide by it. It's not going to be easy, but they should just try. And they should be more prayerful all the time, because I know during the fasting there's prayer every time. They should continue that prayer so Osun can move forward, so Osun can get to the promised land.
The chief imam of Oshogbo, Sheikh Musa Animashau, in his sermon implored Muslims to worship God in spirit and in truth, saying life is vanity. Therefore, they should not hesitate to serve God regardless of who they are or the position they hold. The Muslim cleric equally tasked faithful to flee from sin. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
In other news, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has said that it has no idea of the whereabouts of the suspended resident electoral commissioner of Adamawa State, Hudu Ari, since his infamous action during the supplementary governorship election in the state. Ari stirred controversy when he announced the supplementary governorship election result in Adamawa State on Sunday, while collation was not yet concluded. After suspending the reg, INEC reported his case to President Muhammadu Buhari, who on Thursday approved Ari's suspension pending the completion of an investigation by the Inspector General of Police on the conduct and actions of the reg during the supplementary election in Adamawa State. The INEC National Commissioner said the commission had received a report from the Inspector General of Police and has commenced the process of prosecuting the controversial Adamawa reg. Elsewhere, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has responded to the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating allegations of illegal crude oil exports to global destinations from 2014 to date. Malami's position was made known in a letter to the committee, indicating that the Ministry of Justice was trying to put together a comprehensive response to the alleged sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil valued at over $2.4 billion. However, the chairman of the committee, Mark Jibila, who read the letter, said it came a lot later than expected. He added that the committee will expect the Attorney General to provide the required response and to also appear before the committee next Thursday. And to judicial matters, Justice Mojisola Dada of the Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja, Lagos, has convicted and sentenced one Nasiru Ogara, a retiree of the Nigerian Port Authority (NPA), to 16 years imprisonment for 24 million naira fraud. Ogara and his company, New Age Motor Waste Basket Limited, were prosecuted by the Lagos Zonal Command of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) on a 4-count charge bordering on obtaining by false pretense and issuance of due check to the tune of 24 million naira. However, he pleaded not guilty to all the charges when he was first arraigned in February 2018. Delivering judgment, Justice Dada held that the prosecution effectively proved the ingredients of the offences filed against the defendant. Justice Dada pronounced him guilty on counts 1 to 3 and sentenced him to 14 years in prison on counts 1 and 2 and 2 years on count 3. Justice Adenike Akinpelu of the Kwara State High Court in Ilorin has sentenced the former banker Ajiboye Aremu to 7 years imprisonment without an option of fine for obtaining money by false pretense. The Ilorin Zonal Command of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) had on February 17, 2020, arraigned Ajiboye on a 1-count charge of obtaining money by false pretenses. The defendant pleaded not guilty to the charge. Delivering judgment on Wednesday, Justice Akinpelu held that the prosecution had proved beyond its case reasonable doubt and pronounced Ajiboye guilty as charged. He sentenced the defendant to 7 years imprisonment without an option of fine and ordered that he pay the sum of 8 million naira to the victim. The convict, while working with a New Generation Bank, received the sum of 10 million naira for placement in a fixed deposit account, but diverted the money to his personal use. In another development, Justice Akinpelu also sentenced one Adini Idamilare to 6 months imprisonment, each on 2 counts bordering on cheating by personation. And to security matters, the Southern Kaduna People's Union, SUKAPU, has said no fewer than 245 communities in the area have been sacked by armed herdsmen in collaboration with terrorists in the past 6 years. The body is therefore appealing to the United Nations and African Union to come to their aid by urgently sending troops to the area on a peacekeeping operation, stating that the people of Southern Kaduna have lost faith in the capacity and sincerity of the Nigerian security authorities to protect them against bandits and armed herdsmen. Speaking at a news conference in Kaduna today, the president of Southern Kaduna People's Union, Awemi Mesa Mari, lamented that no fewer than 63 communities in ITAP land in Zangun Kataf local government area alone have been attacked by herdsmen and bandits, with hundreds of people killed and thousands of others displaced from their homes in the last 6 years. He expressed optimism that the deployment of UN and AU peacekeepers to Southern Kaduna will practically demonstrate that the world is interested in their collective survival as minority ethnic groups in Nigeria. You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, over 1,200 Nigerian students call for evacuation amid Sudan power struggle. We'll bring you more on this when we return.
On 16th September 1923, named Harry Lee Kwan and known as
as Lee Kuan Yew. He was often addressed by his initials of LKY. Lee Kuan Yew was a barrister and the first Prime Minister of Singapore between 1959 and 1990. Educated at Raffles Institution from 1936 to 1940 and the Fitzwilliam House between 1947 and 1949, Lee Kuan Yew established a highly effective and anti-corrupt governance system that midwives the transformation of Singapore into a high net worth income economy within a generation. He never hid his exception to Western mode democratic ideal, which he believed had not assisted developing nations to attain good government. Before his death on 23rd March 2015, the People's Action Party, which he founded, had used its political influence to establish the United World College of Southeast Asia to expand his economic ideas among countries that constitute the Asian Tiger. Western Spring Television identifies Lee Kuan Yew as a major character in history. Named Mao Zedong at birth, but globally known as Mao Zedong, he was a Chinese revolutionary and founder, People's Republic of China, which he led as chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from 1949 until his death in 1976. He was a communist who believed in the attainment of power by the instrumentality of gun. His wise saying, "Political power grows out of the barrel of gun," formed the major plank of his revolutionary struggle for the control of China. In the long span of his leadership and political power, Mao Zedong relentlessly entrenched the communist philosophy in China, which emphasized the revolutionary struggle of the vast majority of people against the exploiting class and their state structures. The communist leaders defined the class struggle as people's war. Mao Zedong was a story of grass to grace, having risen from peasantry to preeminent status as China's most respected leader. Western Spring Television identifies Mao Zedong as a major character in history.
Welcome back. This is still News at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. President Muhammadu Buhari has said he cannot wait to head to his hometown in Daura, Katsina State after he hands over on May 29th. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has said that it has no idea of the whereabouts of the suspended resident electoral commissioner of Adamawa State, Hudu Ari, since his infamous action during the supplementary governorship election in the state. The Imo State Police Command said that it had launched a manhunt for the killers of its 5 operatives and a couple at the Okwala Junction in the Ngo Okwala local government area of the state. On the foreign scene, Oliver Dowden has been named the new Deputy Prime Minister, and Alex Chalk will take over as Justice Secretary following the resignation of Dominic Rahab, who was found to have bullied some staff during his time in government. You're welcome back. In Imo State, the State Police Command has said it had launched a manhunt for the killers of its 5 operatives and a couple at the Okwala Junction in the Ngo Okwala local government area of the state. Some unidentified gunmen had opened fire this morning on 5 policemen who were eating at a local restaurant, killed all of them and carted away their rifles. The gunmen also killed a couple identified as Mr. and Mrs. Chinaka Unwagu, who owned a shop beside the scene of the crime. Confirming the gruesome murder to journalists, the spokesperson for the police in the state, Henry Okoye, said the command's tactical and operational teams had been deployed to the area. Okoye said the command was on the trail of the suspects, adding that security had been beefed up in the area to increase public confidence. And in Oyo State, the state government has assured users of the Oyo-Fashola-Iseyin Road that the newly constructed Ogun River Bridge will be open to traffic soon, saying the work was near completion. Commissioner for Public Works and Transport, Dahoud Shogodoyin, gave the assurance while inspecting the 34.8-kilometer Oyo-Fashola Isenyi Road, which started in 2021. Shogodoyin commended the state governor, Seyi Makinde, for his relentless efforts to improve the state agriculture and economy through the construction of good roads. He implored the citizens to protect whatever facility the state government had provided so that there will not be any need for unnecessary repair. The management of the Federal Capital Development Authority has announced the shutdown of the Nnamdi Expressway carriageway and the Area 1 roundabout in the territory to enable the continuation of construction on the interchange. In a notification message today, the FCDA said the main carriageways and service lanes on the Nnamdi Azikiwe Expressway at the Area 1 roundabout coming from the airport and vice versa will be shut down between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturday the 22nd and Sunday the 23rd of April 2023. The agency stated that the shutdown will result in the closure of the roads to all incoming, while urging residents and motorists to follow the alternative routes provided by the contractor. The message also stated that officers of the FCT Vehicle Inspection Office, the police and the Federal Road Safety Corps had been informed of the arrangements and will be on the ground to assist the traffic control at the roundabout and associated ramps. Away from there, Nigerian students numbering over 1,262 have appealed to the federal government to evacuate them from the Republic of Sudan, where a fierce military confrontation between the Sudanese army forces and the paramilitary group Rapid Support Force has claimed 330 lives with 3,200 injured. The Secretary General of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Sudan, Adam Mohammed, who said this in an interview with journalists, lamented that many students had run out of food. The clashes had also displaced thousands of civilians who fled the capital, Khartoum, even as some foreign nations, including Japan, Uganda, and Tanzania, had begun evacuating their nationals as the violence, which started on April 8th, entered its 13th day today. However, the Secretary General of National Association of Nigerian Students in Sudan said no student had been hurt in the course of the war, but lamented that students were experiencing food shortages, electricity outage, and telecommunications blackout. It was further revealed that 1,262 Nigerian students had filled the evacuation forms as of Wednesday night. On the foreign scene, Oliver Dowden has been named the new Deputy Prime Minister, and Alex Chalk will take over as Justice Secretary following the resignation of Dominic Rahab, who was found to have bullied staff during his time in government. Mr. Rahab stepped down from the role this morning after a report into his conduct found he had acted in an intimidating way and was unreasonably and persistently aggressive in meetings. But he has attacked the findings as flawed and claimed they set a dangerous precedent for the conduct of good government. Mr. Dowden had been serving in Rishi Sunak's government as the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and Cabinet Office Secretary before the new appointment, and will continue in the role alongside his new responsibilities. Meanwhile, Mr. Chalk, who becomes the 10th Justice Secretary in 10 years, leaves his more junior role at the Ministry of Defense to take on the department. The World Health Organization said today that more than 400 people have been killed and over 3,500 others hurt in the fighting in Sudan. WHO spokeswoman Margaret Harris disclosed this to reporters at a press briefing in Geneva. The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, added that at least 9 children were among the dead and more than 50 children had been wounded. Citing Sudanese health ministry figures, Harris said 20 health facilities had stopped functioning and another 12 were at risk of stopping. She noted that these will affect not only the people who have been injured during this fighting, but the people who were needing treatment before. Similarly, UNICEF spokesman James Elder told reporters that the crisis is taking a devastating toll on the country's children, adding that children will continue to pay the price as long as fighting continues. In another development, gunfire was reported in Sudan's capital Khartoum and the city of Bahri, despite the Rapid Support Forces announcing a truce after 6 days of fighting to coincide with the start of the Eid al-Fitr holiday. According to residents, the capital was rocked by bombing and shelling before the ceasefire announcement added that soldiers were deploying on foot into some neighborhoods. In the latest figure released by the World Health Organization, over 400 people have been killed and over 3,500 others hurt in the conflict.
Sudan's paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, said it had agreed to a 72-hour truce from 6 a.m. on Friday, but residents of Khartoum and its sister city, Bahri, reported gunfire as Sudanese troops were deployed in the cities on foot. The RSF early on Friday announced a ceasefire after 6 days of fighting to coincide with the start of the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr and to allow residents to reunite with their families. The UN, US and other countries have been pushing for a 3-day truce to mark the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr.
We have just finished a meeting convened by the African Union on the dramatic situation in Sudan, bringing together the United Nations, the League of Arab States, IGAD and the European Union, as well as representatives from a number of countries that are deeply committed to solving the crisis.
There was no immediate comment from the army and its Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who did not mention a ceasefire in a pre-recorded speech posted on the army's Facebook page.
سقط القتلى والجرحى وتشردت الأسر ودمرت المنشآت والمنازل.
Khartoum, the capital, was rocked by bombing and shelling before the ceasefire announcement, and witnesses heard gunfire as the ceasefire and morning Eid prayers were due to begin. Fighting between the RSF and Sudan's army erupted on Saturday, derailing an internationally backed plan for a transition to a civilian democracy 4 years after the fall of Islamist autocrat Omar al-Bashir to mass protests and 2 years after a military coup. At least 350 people have been killed in the past struggle between two previously allied leaders of the ruling military junta, Army Chief Burhan, and RSF leader General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who is widely known as Hemeti. There have been heartbreaking stories emerging from the devastating violence in Sudan. A young boy recounts his loss as bombs have killed his friends and he pleads for the fighting to cease. Evacuation efforts by foreign governments have been hampered by the fighting near the airport and in residential areas in Khartoum. On Wednesday, Japan, through its Chief Cabinet Secretary, Hirokazu Matsuno, announced that Japan had initiated plans to rescue its nationals living in Sudan through the self-defense forces. Nigerian students in wartime Sudan lament their neglect by the Nigerian embassy. The National Association of Nigerian Students, Sudan, NANS, also in an open letter to the Nigerian government, solicited their immediate evacuation from Sudan. The students, numbering over 1,262, have appealed to the federal government to evacuate them from the Republic of Sudan, where there's a fierce military confrontation between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces. The clashes have also displaced thousands of civilians who fled the capital Khartoum, even some foreign nations, including Japan, Uganda, and Tanzania, who have begun evacuation plans of their nationals. So far, evacuation efforts by foreign governments has been hampered by the fighting near the airport and in residential areas in Khartoum. Temi Tokbe, Ajijala Oluwaola, Western Spring Television News.
And still in Africa, gunmen killed 10 members of the same family during an attack outside the city of Pietermaritzburg in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province. Police were called to the house in the township of Imbali by neighbors who heard shooting in the early hours of this morning during a power cut. The motive of the murder of the 7 women and 3 men remains yet to be ascertained. Police Minister Becky Cele and top management of the South African Police Force visited the crime scene this afternoon. Mr. Cele had recently admitted that the country had a serious problem with gun violence. This is the second mass shooting in KwaZulu-Natal this week after 4 other people were shot and killed yesterday in a home in Kwamashu, north of the port city of Durban.
As police were attending to this, they received information that there are people who were doing some cleansing down about 1.5 kilometers from here. Well, we have gone and see that scene. In that scene, there were 4 people who were standing outside, and as they saw the police, they exchanged fire with the police. Police shot back, killed 1, injured 1 who was arrested, and 1 is arrested and injured. 1 has run away. Fortunately, they know who ran away. So we have seen one of those guys, and they gave us the story.
In other news, the South African police have evicted more than 100 asylum seekers camping for over 3 years outside the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees UNHCR offices in Pretoria. The scores of asylum seekers began living in makeshift tents pitched outside the UNHCR offices, asking to be relocated to other countries after a spate of xenophobic violence in 2019. Pretoria Municipality last week secured a High Court order to remove them. The court document states that the refugees will be evicted and taken to the Nindela Repatriation Center, a temporary holding center for undocumented migrants who are earmarked for deportation to their countries of origin. Scores of police officers led by the Sheriff's Department carried out the eviction with the aid of immigration and other officers. And in North America, Canadian police says it is investigating a major gold heist at Toronto's Pearson International Airport after millions of dollars of the precious metal and other valuables went missing. According to the police, thieves made off with more than $20 million in gold and other valuables on Monday. Regional Police Inspector Stephen Duyveston told newsmen that a container was stolen after being unloaded from a plane at a cargo facility. Mr. Duyveston said the robbery was very rare and no arrests had been made, but investigators have their eyes open to all avenues.
What I can tell you is that on Monday, April 17th, 2023, an aircraft arrived here at the airport in the early evening. As per normal procedure, the aircraft was unloaded and cargo was transported from the aircraft to a holding cargo facility. Once this cargo was offloaded at a holding facility, subsequent to its arrival, this high-value container was removed by illegal means from the holding facility. This cargo was reported missing to the Peel Regional Police a short time later. An investigation has commenced. What I can say is that the container contained a high-value shipment. It did contain gold, but was not exclusive to gold and contained other items of monetary value. The total worth estimated at this time in our investigation for the property is estimated at just over $20 million. This remains an ongoing investigation led by the Peel Regional Police. It is being investigated by the Criminal Investigation Bureau at the Airport Division. This division and the command of the Airport Division has an absolutely wonderful working relationship with the RCMP, but at this time, this remains a Peel Regional Police investigation. Having said that, our relationship is so good with the RCMP that I have utmost confidence that if they can help us in this investigation, it can be a quick call.
Elsewhere, a Russian Sukhoi 34 supersonic warplane accidentally fired a weapon into the city of Belgorod near Ukraine late yesterday, causing an explosion and injuring 3 people. Video footage from the site showed piles of concrete on the street, several damaged cars, and a building with broken windows. Belgorod region governor announced a state of emergency overnight and said there was a crater measuring 20 meters across on one of the main streets, adding that 4 cars and 4 apartment buildings were damaged. The governor also said 3 people had been injured. The Belgorod region is one of the several parts of southern Russia where targets such as fuel and ammunition stores have been rocked by explosions since the start of what Moscow calls its special military operation in Ukraine on February 24th, 2022. Argentina President Alberto Fernandez has announced that he will not stand for re-election in October's vote, a surprise move that deepened uncertainty in the crisis-racked country. The news comes as Latin America's third largest economy has seen inflation soar to almost 22% in the last 3 months and more than 100% over the last year. Not only does Argentina have one of the highest inflation rates in the world, but the Argentine peso also suffers constant depreciation against the US dollar. Fernandez's center-left Frente de Todos coalition has yet to put forward a candidate for August primaries, with Fernandez declaring in his Friday video announcement that it needs to generate a new cycle of leaders. Still ahead, Twitter's removal of blue tick forces account to find new ways to provide authenticity as concerns over crypto mounts. We have more on this and other business stories after this break. Please stay with us.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
You're welcome back, and moving on to some business stories. Twitter's removal of blue ticks is forcing accounts to find new ways to provide authenticity as concerns over copycats mount. At the same time, Elon Musk has given blue ticks to a few celebrities who did not ask for one, such as writer Stephen King. The company has scrambled to suspend copycat account after the blue tick verifications once a status symbol and a sign of authority were called. An account posing as Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces, which are currently battling the Sudanese army in a major power struggle, tweeted that its leader, Hamdati, had been killed. Although the account is fake, it does not have a blue tick, while the real account does not. It is believed that Twitter's latest action could trigger an even greater risk of impersonation of high-profile users and also create confusion over the authenticity of information on the microblogging service. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, has said it will release new unemployment and employment figures for the country by May 2023. The NBS discussed this in a report, noting that the report will cover data collected from October 19, 2022 to January 22, 2023. The NBS stated that it was learning from other countries to improve Nigeria's labor market statistics. Talking sports, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says he is very confident his Premier League leaders can return to winning ways when they host Southampton later tonight. The Gunners, who have squandered 2-goal lead to draw each of their past 2 games, are currently 4 points clear of Manchester City at the top. Arteta, ahead of the match, said what his side are playing for is something incredible, stating that the club hasn't fought for this position for a very long time. The Arsenal manager further added that his passion for the club lifts him up from the bad moments. Arsenal could extend their lead over City to 7 points with victory over Southampton. However, Pep Guardiola's side will have 2 games in hand when they host the Gunners at Etihad Stadium next Wednesday.
Oh, when you question yourself and I said, how have we lost him? And it's too late now. But then I was 5 a.m. the next morning, and I could not wait to get up off my bed to come here to work, you know. And when you have that, is that you actually love what you do, you know. It's I have had a big passion for the game and being the Arsenal manager. But there is something else, you know. There is a purpose that is driving all the time here, that it's what we actually want to do. And that leaves me from my bed very early and with a lot of energy, and that's an incredible thing to have in your life.
Real Madrid coach Carlo Ancelotti complained about the packed football calendar today and insisted something has to change to protect the players. Madrid beat Chelsea this week to reach the Champions League semi-finals, and they will play the first leg 3 days after competing against Osasuna in the Copa del Rey final. Despite the proximity of the Cup final on May 6th and Man City's visit to the Santiago Bernabeu on May the 9th, Ancelotti said he will not be forced to rotate his team between the matches. Nigeria have been paired with Brazil in the Group D of the 2023 Under-20 World Cup following the draw for the competition held today in Zurich, Switzerland. The Flying Eagles, one of the 4 African representatives for the competition billed to hold in Argentina later in the year, also have Italy and the Dominican Republic as opponents. Coach Laden Boso's side qualified for the tournament after clinching bronze at the Under-20 AFCON held earlier in the year. Another African representative and continental champion, Senegal, were placed in Group C alongside Japan, Israel, and Colombia. This year's competition will run from May the 10th to June the 11th, and Nigeria will be aiming to become only the second African country after Ghana to land the trophy. And to tennis, Stefano Tsitsipas edged into the semifinals of the Barcelona Open today, beating Alex de Minaur 6-4, 6-2 to stay on a collision course with defending champion Carlos Alcaraz. Tsitsipas claimed the lone break of the opening set and then reeled off 5 straight games in the second as he won for the 9th time in as many meetings with Australia's de Minaur. The Greek second seed will play Lorenzo Musetti on Saturday as he bids to reach the Barcelona final for a 3rd time. He was runner-up to Rafael Nadal in 2018 and 2021. Tsitsipas, the losing finalist at January's Australian Open, is bidding for his first title of the season, and And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. President Muhammadu Buhari has said he cannot wait to head to his hometown in Daura, Katsina State after he hands over on May 29th. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has said that it has no idea of the whereabouts of the suspended resident electoral commissioner of Adamawa State, Hudu Ari, since his famous action during the supplementary governorship election in the state. The Imo State Police Command said that it had launched a manhunt for the killers of its 5 operatives and a couple at the Okpala Junction in the Ungo-Okpala local government area of the state. And on the foreign scene, Oliver Dowden has been named the new Deputy Prime Minister, and Alex Chalk will take over as Justice Secretary following the resignation of Dominic Rahab, who was found to have bullied staff during his time in government. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Tunde Ido. Have yourself a super week.